close to me, but wherever you like. What a massive venue, right?
What a massive venue. Well done for coming back from coffee so promptly.
Oh, yes. Well done, everyone, from coming back
Still
from coffee.
Still some laggards up there.
There's
Let's not
always...
embarrass them.
It wouldn't be ATS without us having to bark at everybody like 15 million times to get them back from networking breaks. But actually, it's great that everybody's really excited and to see one another and so forth, and it's amazing to be in an in-person event. Right, so as I said, panel titled Publisher Strikes Back. No pressure, it is the only purely publisher-focused discussion for the day, so we're expecting you three to solve all the mysteries of the publisher side of the business. But I guess the obvious opening question has got to be, particularly specifically to you, Piers, and you, Vic, coming from two big UK publishers, Future and Reach. To what extent do you feel like the sort of set of circumstances that we find ourselves in the industry at the moment, a heavy focus on first-party data, a lot of privacy legislation coming to the fore and really putting that emphasis on creating a marketing and advertising environment that's consumer-focused, to what extent does that play into the way that you're structuring your businesses at the moment? Piers, let's start with you.
Well, specifically on data, it really is the heart of what we're trying to do. Future and us, I guess, are probably here because we are businesses over the last sort of 12 months, if you look at the city, the ones that have performed the best. And part of the reason that has been for us, both in our financials but also our investor perception, is the idea of putting that data in the heart of our business. And therefore, is the narrative, are they buying into that data, the narrative that means we strike back? It's not the only answer. And I think one of the things you have to be careful with is publishers aren't monolithic. They perhaps were 20 years ago, but I'm sure in the room, if there are publishers here, even for us in Future, we are very different. Some are big, some are small, some have heavy print, some don't have print. So you can't really describe publishers as this kind of single monolith. You have to look under the bonnet. But for sure, data and first-party data is going to be a key part of our jigsaw. But it's not the only part of our jigsaw. You'd be mad to think that just by doing first-party data that suddenly the world is rosy again. You have to work hard across your whole portfolio. And that includes print, right? Let's be clear. For a number of publishers, print and the profitability that drives will still be an important part of things going forward.
Yeah, okay, really interesting. We'll dig into a bit more detail on that in a minute. Vic, your perspective from Future?
Yeah, I think obviously at the minute it's been very centered around first-party data, and you'll see a lot of publishers, Future themselves, building out those first-party data, like how do advertisers access that. So things like audience data platforms or first-party data platforms. So that's really been kind of, I guess, during this time, post-pandemic, of the major focus that I've seen coming out from it. As part of this as well, I don't necessarily see it as publishers striking back or publishers taking back the ecosystem. I think it's very much that the relationship has shifted, or the dynamic in the industry has shifted, and there's a lot more focus now on the consumer and making sure that for both publishers and buyers, they're really thinking about how do you put the consumer truly at the center of it, of everything that we do. So again, that goes back to that first-party data. It needs to be privacy compliant. It kind of all comes back in a circle, and I think that's where we found ourselves today.
And would you say, when you say you don't really see it as publishers striking back, is that sort of in part as well because from your perspective, you've long since been trying to construct a sort of mixed revenue model? Is it just say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think that it's just, there's always been a perception of publishers kind of maybe being the not quite so desirable area of the industry, and so I think it's a hang-up of that perception, if you like, is how I see it. So I don't necessarily see it as striking back, because I think we've always been there, we've always offered real, true value, but it's just now that's become the central conversation for the industry.
And that's an opportunity, right? We talked in sort of our opening session and our opening panel discussion session. I think I mentioned to you guys just before we came on stage as well that Isabel Bass from Starcom very openly said that she finds it really exciting, and she finds it a point, it's something that enthuses her about the world of marketing and advertising at the moment, that publishers are, having their day, if you like, and are, I suppose the way you put it, Vic, more at the centre of conversations than perhaps the previous sort of 5 or 6 years. Luke, from your point of view, I know you've got an interest obviously in supporting all the pubs that you guys work with, but I know you've also got an interest in the way that publishers build out a kind of diversified revenue model. So how do you see this notion of publishers kind of regaining control of their business?
Yeah, I guess the provocative title that you put on the screen there was, I think,
Not deliberate at all.
The subtext was around striking back against the buy side of the ecosystem, which I don't necessarily think is the case. I think it's more the open web is striking back against the walled gardens in a way, and publishers are being given the tools to better interact and sell their offerings into the buy side. So yeah, I think we've seen a number of factors that have kind of driven that. Obviously, everything that's happened around privacy has put so much more of the onus and responsibility on a publisher to get consent on behalf of the rest of the ecosystem. So I think the ecosystem needs to respect the challenges that the publisher is going through at the moment. And I think broadly at the same time, consumers are accessing publisher content across a whole range of devices, and publishers are therefore having to diversify how they're also monetizing that content. So I think it's very rare now that you see monetization solutions that are just solely focused on one particular format or one particular channel. Those solutions are kind of really coming to the end of their life cycle, and I think we're seeing companies moving much more towards an omni-channel strategy.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that. Believe it or not, we didn't actually choose this title deliberately provocatively to suggest that the publisher was striking back against buyers or the buy side of the industry, but rather more exactly what you said, that the publishing businesses have now got more control over what's happening outside of a walled garden environment, and it gives them an opportunity to be perhaps on a more of an equal footing. I don't know, Piers, if that feels familiar to you. And also, picking up on what Luke just said there, do you feel as though the sorts of technology tools and solutions that you're using and that you're relying on at the moment are becoming a little bit more either omni-channel or are helping you in a multiplicity of ways rather than being kind of singularly focused?
Well, if you take the first part of the question, I think the most important thing, I think the change over the last 18 months is really that publishers can see a pathway to sustainability in the market that perhaps they couldn't before. I would say as well, that's not going to be every publisher. Again, publishers are still going to have to act at scale to have a chance. And scale is obviously subjective. Is it global scale? Is it national scale? But publishers, I think, can now see a pathway to sustainability, and they can see some of the control, if you like, or a portion of the control coming back their way. Part of that pathway is absolutely a diversification of the revenue, and I think every publisher, if you're a £100 million business in digital, you're not a £100 million business in digital. You're probably 100 £1 million businesses, and that does put pressure on organisations. If I look at the pressures that we have, is it video, is it e-com, is it affiliates, is it display, is it and even video, is it pre-roll or is it in read? There are so many different parts of that ecosystem. So clearly, any infrastructure you're building needs to be able to deliver and try to deliver across those. But there is also a recognition that sometimes those oil and water will not mix. And that, again, does put pressure on publishers. And you want to work with partners that can provide you that kind of end-to-end solution. But technical or data, still, I'm sure for any business, whether you're ad tech publisher or buy side, it is still technical debt and systems are still a big problem. And talking about regaining control, it's an important reminder that, and I think Vic really was making that point, is that publishers aren't going it alone. Like, it's not like we're never going to need an ad server. I have no interest in building an ad server. I mean, it's just the idea that we're somehow going to be back to the old days of print, where it was like print, we owned our presses, and an advertiser came to us. I mean, those days are not going to come back. But it is about constructing an ecosystem where you have an element of more control and a pathway to success.
Yeah. And does that feel sort of familiar to you as well, Luke? The conversations that you're having with publishers, are they more, about a multiplicity of challenges that they're trying to deal with? Does it feel like we are kind of maturing a bit on that side of the industry?
Does it feel like we're maturing? I think there continues to be a lot of innovation and investment in the industry, and so publishers are being presented with a plethora of solutions out there. I think the test for anyone is to go look at an ads.txt file for any publisher, and you can see the challenges that they face. The more that's in there, the more that they have to deal with. And it kind of probably speaks to some of the things that Piers was talking about there as well, having to deal with these different channels individually. But yeah, I think overall, like we're seeing programmatic being able to grow and address much more of the, I guess, the challenges that publishers are facing.
Yeah, okay. And one of the things that was also mentioned this morning is that this sort of, I suppose, maturing of conversation and changing of the focus of conversation that you touched on, Vic, is also an opportunity to bring the buy side a bit closer to the sell side. Is that something that you're finding in some of the ways that you're undertaking a lot of your marketing and advertising at the moment? Do you feel closer to buyers?
Yeah, I definitely think, again, this kind of shift in relationship that's happening at the moment, and partly it been accelerated and driven by the first-party data conversations, is definitely making it more of a direct conversation. I think at Future, we're definitely seeing that the advertisers that we talk to are very much, they want to find publishers that truly understand the audiences, what makes them tick, what resonates with them, what doesn't, and so they find that incredibly valuable by working with us to understand that and effectively, again, more success for their campaigns. So yeah, I definitely think that there is a kind of growing shift to bring sides together, but I think it goes back to, again, transparency issues within the industry, that I think there hasn't been clarity maybe previously about exactly what's being bought and sold, and so just opening up more collaboration and conversations across all sides of the industry, that's kind of where we've got to now.
Is it getting better, do you think?
I think that there's always going to be new areas, new mediums, new platforms evolving, and it just, not necessarily maybe getting better or worse, but it's always going to have to be that I think the fundamental goes back to collaboration and just making sure that you understand each sides of the business or the industry. Understand it from the buy side point and the sell side point. Otherwise, I just don't think there'll be any progression.
Piers, do you feel closer to buyers?
Well, I'd say define buy side. We're quite unique in the sense that we service everyone from Mrs. Miggins on the high street, client direct, right through to P&G and big agency groups, plus also resellers, third parties, Facebook, Apple. I mean, what define the buy side? Ultimately, I have inventory that we want to trade. Would I love a single plug that just plugs in and gives you the highest possible price and you can walk away? Yes. Is that ever going to happen? No. So a bit like you're diversifying your revenue streams, you have to be accepting that you're going to have a mixed economy when it comes to your buy side. And clearly you're going to have some bigger partners, some smaller partners. But yeah, we have client direct conversations in the classic sense of the word at big client side, and some of them transact direct with us. Is that going to be the norm and the dominant? I don't know. If it is, great, we'll be there to do it. If it's not, we won't. So really, you kind of have to just, you have to be fleet of foot. But as long as you have a clear pathway and an understanding of what you're trying to do, then I think that gives you that element of control back.
And, because you just mentioned one of the key challenges that publishers face, Luke, from the tech point of view. So, we talked as well at the top of the day about what this kind of technology layer pillar of the industry might look like over the coming 10 years. And we talked about it being a collection of technology solutions that were very much enabling technology and infrastructure technology. So from your point of view, do you see some consolidation in some of those technology solutions? Can you see things being simplified? Because presumably that's part of the reason that the notion of publishers and buyers, whatever they might look like, coming closer together is a good thing, is to try to simplify that advertising experience.
I think a lot of things get thrown into a technology bucket. There's still a lot of ad networks out there which Kieran will be happy about. And the reality is that there's a lot of companies that do great things to create, I guess, new standards or to create almost a new market. Like Outstream video is probably a great example. Do you need a standalone technology to then power Outstream moving forward? Probably not. I think the core technologies that publishers use today, obviously the ad server, and then they've got their SSP partners. An SSP can no longer just be about connecting to DSPs and managing price floors. It has to grow from there. So those integrations that are going to happen with identity providers, being able to address a lot more of those formats, I think that's what's going to change. I think the capabilities of that piece is what we're going to see continue to accelerate.
Yeah. And so I wonder, Vic and Piers, if you can say something about what that feels like from your perspective, working with new pieces of technology, new technology tools and solutions as they crop up. I don't want to focus too heavily on this, but identity solutions and the promise of what they might offer, I suppose, data infrastructure, data solutions, and the promise of what they might offer. What does that feel like internally? There's both big organisations, no doubt you've got pretty sophisticated approach to integrating and onboarding technology solutions, but what does it look like from your point of view? Does it feel, you said before, Piers, as long as you're sort of quite clearly focused on where you're trying to get, that helps. Is that the way that you're approaching it at Reach?
Yeah, look, I'm fortunate or unfortunate enough to be slightly divorced. You'd have to ask someone like Terry who runs it on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
For us, I'm sure it's the same future. It's about scale and return. And it's always the same tip I give to anyone in the ad tech space is unless you're going to make a material difference to my business, we're not that interested. So we'll do a lot internally, proprietary build. We'll obviously partner, but it's about what is, it has to have, we're a relatively large digital business, and therefore, my favourite phrase is a long walk for a small drink. I don't want our team spending weeks testing stuff that's going to deliver a couple of grand. It's just there's no upside. So it is about, is it going to make a material difference to the business? If it is, then we'll do it. But yeah, you have to be very careful because there are so many rabbit warrens you can go down on that technology side and have teams wasting weeks on integrations, whereas just mess around with Alex some more and you'd make way more money tomorrow. So you have to be careful about how you play it.
Vic?
On the future side, I think this is actually where we've got quite a unique position on this. We've taken the viewpoint of really being the kind of owning the destiny of our own product roadmap and tech roadmap. So really putting in a lot of infrastructure to build it ourselves, build those capabilities ourselves. So whether that's site infrastructure like CMS, whether that's an e-commerce platform that we have called Hawk, and even our first-party data platform that's now Aperture, we have really taken the decision to lead a lot of the kind of tech implementation and actually doing it ourselves. And I think the benefit that we've had from that is that then we get to deliver the technology as we need to in two ways that works best. Best for our audiences, which are very specialist, high-intent audiences, and sometimes we need tech that's just very bespoke to them, which isn't available out there. So building it ourselves helps us to really best serve our audiences and give them the best content when they need it. And then on the flip side of that, it's also giving advertisers the ability to reach those high-intent specialist audiences and making sure that they are going to be able to access them in the way that they buy. So in effect, I think Future's been very clever. It's built itself its own version of a walled garden, but it's also allowed drawbridges and gates so that advertisers can still access the whole kind of technology that we've built ourselves.
Okay, and so that was actually going to be my next question. Interested in everyone's point of view on this is, what are therefore, if you think about the ways in which your Future and Reach as examples of building your businesses, the conversations, Luke, that you have with, frankly, everyone in the industry and your point of view on this being the open web's opportunity to strike back, where is the opportunity for publishers to kind of go next? And where I'm going here is that already, again, mentioned on, in fact, the just most recently previous panel, which was talking about data-driven TV, with, I suppose, more accessible, being able to access more focused audiences from a publisher point of view, also having enormous content businesses, can you see publishers going into different channels for the purposes of marketing and, well, not just for the purposes of marketing and advertising, but to build out your business from a more sustainable point of view? Would you go into TV? Would you go into Yeah.
Mirror TV.
Yeah, I think that might be a bit of a stretch.
Why not? I mean, Kira was just saying earlier, you know, that now that we've got platforms like Roku, anyone can spin up a TV channel. So why not a publisher with an enormous amount of content and a wide range of assets, content-based assets? But yeah, sorry, Piers, I interrupted. Go.
No, well, I don't know if someone else can go. We're always looking. I mean, it comes back to the point about publishers striking back and setting down a pathway, whether it be e-com or, you know, as Future have done such a good job on, or whatever. You're always looking at new avenues, but you have to be realistic. I mean, you know, you're not, well, again, define TV, you know. What is TV these days?
Jeez, you need really strict definitions.
Well, you know, I mean, it's like you're not going to. ITV would not sustain their business just purely on VOD, right? So, you know, a bit like us with print, they still have linear TV, which you know allows them to do all the cool stuff that they no doubt are doing in the connected TV space. But yeah, you're always looking at new things, but you also have to be practical. I mean, I think Vic is absolutely right. I think there is going to be more of a trend for publishers to do stuff themselves in the tech space. The caveat, I think, is most publishers will always build on top of white label proprietary systems. I mean, again, whether it be the cloud, frankly, or a DMP, you know, we're not going to create a DMP, but we may build a variant of it and give it a nice name and, you know, and push it that way. But you will see more of publishers doing that for sure. You know, and for other business models, yeah, clearly. I mean, as I said, most publishers at scale that make a success of digital aren't one business. Said, you know, we have video. Does that make us a TV? Well, it makes us a large portion of our revenue is AV. I'm not sure I class this as a TV business, but
TV's just around the corner, I think.
Right, okay. Game of Thrones, here we come.
Yeah, Luke, what's your point of view on this?
I mean, I don't know if I've got too much to add here. Really, I guess like publishers should be looking to like find a way to create those audiences, whether they're TV, mirror TV. I mean, Future could compete against GCN and set up some velodrome riding channels or something for Cycling Weekly. Like, there's no boundaries for a lot of these publishers. And I think coming back to Piers' first point, every publisher is slightly different, and the term publisher, it really means different things. Like for an auto trader, what does that mean for them? Should they get into selling cars like on the high street? It's a tricky one, but I guess from my perspective, I'm not going to be able to help them sell cars on the high street, but if they want to put programmatic ads in there, yeah, probably.
We did talk about it, actually, the idea of auto traders selling cars, perhaps not on the high street, but, you know, why not? I suppose it's just the idea that, you know, once you become, content rich in a particular area, what are the other opportunities beyond that, I suppose? Vic, interested particularly in your point of view on this, because Future's got quite an interesting profile of businesses already.
Yeah, Future is hugely diversified. So from advertising to events to subscription, print business, I mean, it does have many strings to its bow. And so I think that actually has been fundamental to its success and sustainability. And I think the approach from Future on this is that diversification of your revenue model or your mix really is essential for sustainability and also stability in your business. If you allow one revenue model to kind of overtake, that's then, you know, going to be more susceptible and doesn't allow you to have that stability as a business. And I think there's always the ability to look at what's the next area to go into, where is the next place that consumers are definitely going to. So video is one area. At Future, the approach there has been taken with very much focusing on social video and acquiring Future studios to help build out content there and again attract audiences, engage them with the content that they want. And I think that's always the important link up, that anything that you're looking to go into really needs, again, think about it from that consumer first rather than maybe buy or tech first perspective. Really think about what is it that consumers are looking for and what do they need. And I think if you go with that perspective, you'll find more success.
Some more, you're looking pensive there, Luke.
No, I was just thinking more about what Future could do.
TV channel right around the corner. So just changing gears a little bit, because you've both Piers and Vic, you've emphasised that, you know, you're running particular types of publishing businesses, and also Luke and all three of you have made the point that publishing businesses are a bit of a broad umbrella term. They all look quite different. So what about smaller independent publishers? Luke, I'm going to come to you first on this. Their opportunity for, you know, operating in the open web and the notion of kind of, regaining or sustaining some control in their business, what are the key things that, that they ought to be thinking about now if they're not already?
First and foremost, probably authentication of users. If you are a smaller publisher, presumably you're niche in some way, you have the ability to create a value exchange with the user, create an authenticated environment. You might then have to partner in the market to kind of create that scale. But I think there was a recent stat in the US, I think 90% of publishers over there are already or in the process of implementing authenticated solutions to kind of drive that first-party data graph. And I think when we say first-party data, we have authenticated first-party data, or we have, I guess the opposite behavioral, a whole bucket of things that isn't as well defined, I would say. So I think for a smaller publisher, it's probably focusing on authentication.
Yep. And do you guys ever find yourselves having conversations with other smaller publishers that are wanting to find out what the big guys are up to?
Yeah, well, I think it's if you're, and again, you've got to define small, so it depends what you, again, without wanting to go back to definitions, but I think it's tough. It depends your business model, right? I think to your point around authentication and or subscription, like that has to be your future if you're a small business, a small publisher. I think if you think you're going to make it out of ads, I think you need to find a harbour pretty quickly to shelter, because whether that be with a partner or we obviously partner with Ozone. That's, again, we're big, but I think all four of us have come together to be even bigger. So I think there's things you can do, but it's pretty tough if you're a small publisher. And again, it depends if you've got a print business as well, because clearly, are you relying on the print business to sustain your digital operations, and that will depend. I can imagine it's quite tough.
Yeah. Vic, anything to add to that?
No, I just think, again, if you're a smaller publisher and you have like a very niche audience, I'll kind of go back to, I think that's how Future started out. It was cycling magazines back in, I think, 1985. It is how it started, fitting for the velodrome. And so, I think it's just really capitalizing on, if you have a niche audience, you are a specialist, you have very specialist content, a very specialist and niche audience. And I think, again, it's really working out. There isn't just one way to engage that audience, and so there's not just one way to monetize that audience as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's the point to focus on.
Yeah. As I said, there was quite a bit of... I have to say that I think this is one of the first ATSs that we've ever had where one of the opening panel discussions that didn't have a publisher on stage focused somewhat on publisher activity and the importance, I suppose, of sort of protecting and maintaining that publisher integrity in the advertising and marketing chain. And so it feels to me like this is becoming a more holistic conversation. But I don't know if that's what you guys feel, because maybe you feel as though, deeply embedded in publishing businesses, maybe you feel like this is the sort of stuff that you've been talking about, and Luke, maybe this is some of the stuff you've been championing for ages. So my question to you is, does it feel more holistic? Do you feel as though the industry is coming together a little bit more, I suppose, efficiently to improve marketing and advertising? And do you feel, I suppose, better understood by the other corners of the industry?
Do we feel better understood?
We'll
never stop
definition
complaining.
again,
Publishers will always whinge, right?
Well, yeah, because I think one year we had a publisher say, you don't work for a publishing business unless you expect life to be difficult.
Yeah.
So, is that
look, life's, the industry's challenging for lots of different people. I don't know, I don't take a strong view either way about whether the industry, is coming round or not. And to Vic's point earlier, we know what we do as publishers. We know our obligations to our, consumers. I think we're all just chipping away, aren't we? One foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
I think there's hyperbole. You can have a year of the publisher, just as we had the year of the mobile for about 10 years. Is it the year of the publisher? I don't know. But I was never really depressed 3 years ago when everyone was really depressed. So maybe I just kind of muddle on through.
And maybe you're in the right industry. This is good. You're cheerful no matter what.
I think maybe we're tackling more complex problems, and so is things more efficient? I think if we've got to continue to focus on driving that efficiency, but we're dealing with a lot more complexity in the background. I think our responsibility on the tech side is to alleviate the challenges and the concerns of the publishers and the buyers, and make it really simple to continue doing what they do, which is producing content, building that audience, and selling that to the buy side. So I think, it's the complexity, the scale, the volume of inventory that exists today, the technical challenge to be able to seamlessly deliver against that. I think that's what we're challenged, or that's what we're currently addressing.
Tackling, yeah. Vic?
I think we've rounded a corner, and I think it's a lot to do with, again, that there's just been historically so many issues, or that, again, I'll go back to lack of transparency, but I think it's just now there's a real need in the marketplace, especially for buyers, to get that trusted premium content and audience. And so I think that's, again, it's just shifted the nature of relationships.
Okay, we're out of time, but a quick last few words. What, looking forward, thinking about the future, what do you want to see from a publisher's point of view in the business, in the industry, in the coming 12 months, Piers?
More money?
Great. Yep.
Look, what I'd hope is that the positivity around, if there is genuine sort of holistic sense of positivity, that it remains. You know, we all need each other in this industry, and you need publishers to succeed, and it's why I do what I do, is I'm very passionate about it. And I think more than ever now I can see that path to sustainability. And you know, it's great to see Future leading the line. It's good to see Reach performing really well. You know, we hope we fly the flag for publishers all around the place, because it is tough. But without us, it's a very difficult place. So yeah, I just hope that the positivity around publishers continue over the next 12 months, and it's our job, I guess, to make sure that happens.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if anything actually does happen in 12 months.
Yeah,
like we still push that 12-month time frame. I think it's pretty clear what we're going to be focused on the next 12 months is we've got a new timeline for the deprecation of the third-party cookie. We need to figure out how we're going to continue to transact and grow. And so there's obviously things happening with cohorts. There's things happening with the plethora of identity solutions out there. They're not all going to work, they're not all going to succeed, and we just need to make sure we make it easy for those that want to transact against it.
Yeah. Vic?
Yeah, I kind of echo Piers here with less publisher bashing, please. That would really help, I think, bring more positivity back into our conversations. And then definitely, a little bit as well as Luke's just said, I think that kind of this focus on what the hell are we going to do when the third-party cookie goes away, I think there's actually solutions there already. So again, I think a little less conversation around that and more action around it, and I think that will help over the next 12 months.
Right. That's a good agenda for the next 12 months. Thank you very much. Everybody, round of applause for our panellists, Piers, Luke and Vic. Thank you.